If you're like me, art can be this wonderful experience in which hours of time just melt away, and by the end of it, you're looking at something, pinching yourself and wondering if you really just made it. I chose art as a career path because art was consistent in its ability to make me forget about time, and I was pretty good at it. A psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi named the concept flow way back in 1975, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about this recently. According to Csikszentmihalyi, a flow state involves two or more of the following factors: intense and focused concentration on the present moment, merging of action and awareness, a loss of reflective self consciousness, a sense of personal control or agency over the situation or activity, a distortion of temporal experience, i.e., one's subjective experience of time is altered, experience of the activity as intrinsically rewarding, also referred to as autotelic experience, feeling you have the potential to succeed, feeling so engrossed in the experience that the other needs become negligible. My first realization of the condition, though I didn't know it at the time, was during a badminton tournament in my freshman year of high school. It felt like time slowed down, that my body and mind were totally united, and that everything outside of the court didn't exist. It was exhilarating and possibly one of the most notable experiences in my high school memories. In creative endeavors, flow is a bit different, but no less impactful, and every time I sit down to create something, it's sort of like I'm chasing the dragon of flow. Up until recently, I've thought of this state as sort of automatic, or at least autonomous, of my own desires. Some days I either find it, other days I don't. Sometimes it's like the universe fights me every step of the way. Lately, I've begun to think that flow is the extreme of a spectrum, with artist block being at the other end. I spent a whole day fighting creative block the other day. I had much of the day to get some stuff done, and if I'm being honest with myself, I spent most of it watching a TV show. I tried several times to get started on something, but every time I did, it was like every fiber of my body fought this lofty goal of just draw something, and I think we've all experienced that at some point. From a purely etymological perspective, artist block is pretty much the anonym to flow, so I suppose I'm not being particularly revelatory here, but I think there are some interesting points to make, so I'm going to go with it. First, let's lock down some attributes of block. Focus on the past or future, an awareness of the passing of time. Intense self-awareness of lethargy or lack of action. A sense of futility, a lack of control over one's abilities. A distortion of temporal experience. Time seems to slow down and crawl by. Reward is replaced by frustration. Feeling like you're way in over your head, you're overwhelmed by the amount of work to be done. Feeling like you can't take action until things are just right, putting off action in favor of irrelevant adjustments and distraction. And feeling as though you can't succeed even if you try. I think that many of these are essentially opposites of flow traits, and like flow traits, you need at least two at the same time to really enter a block state. The question then becomes, how do you move from block to flow? Back before trucking, skidding, and other logging practices, rivers were used extensively for logging. Since wood floated, an easy solution for moving the thousands of pounds of wood a tree contained was to simply throw it into the river and move it downstream to a lumber mill, which conveniently utilized the water as the power to saw the logs down. Frequently, though, these logs would get caught on something and then become themselves a thing for others to get trapped around, forming log jams that would stop the flow of lumber and even the flow of the river. Apparently, skilled lumberjacks would be able to walk over these log jams and pick out the key logs that would be responsible for holding up the whole mass, and shortly after removing these, the rest would flow freely down the stream. I think the process for moving from block to flow is similar in nature. As with depression, there's no easy way, short of drugs I wouldn't recommend, to move from the negative to the positive. It's a bit of a process that starts with becoming aware of the fact that you're in the state and then taking steps to escape it. This is a working theory that I'm still developing, but my experiences with beating depression in the past have been mostly successful, so I'm optimistic. Like any binary stick system, you're going to swing from one extreme to the other, from block to flow and back. Realizing that you're at one end of the extreme is important. As the venerable Frank Herbert wrote, knowing where the trap is, that's the first step in evading it. In this case, it's more along the lines of knowing you're in a trap and the first steps in getting out of it. Once you identify that you're blocked, then you can begin to assess how to unblock yourself. In this moment, the goal changes from trying to produce to getting to a state where you can produce. If your river is full of logs, cutting down more trees probably won't help. Instead, figure out what the keylogs are in your block and work to remove them. If being in a block requires at least 2 of the negative traits I identified above, then I wager the next step is to remove the traits until you're at 1 or less, so you find your way back to neutral. Figuring these logs out may be as simple as asking yourself how to do it. Sit back and say it aloud, "I'm blocked. What should I do to fix it?" Then pay attention to what comes into your thoughts, and most importantly, do those things. This concept is borrowed from psychologist Jordan Peterson, who uses this idea prominently for cleaning one's room. You ask yourself, what could I do to make this room better? And the first thing that comes to mind, you do. It's a little brain hack that I found works astonishingly well across disciplines beyond cleaning a room. Even looking at the artwork you make and asking what you could do to make it better is enough to help you through those moments when you're frustrated with your work and you don't know what to do. But if you don't do the things that pop in your mind, then obviously nothing happens. Anyway, like I said, this is a working theory and I'll likely update and expand on it further in the future. In the meantime, here's some work that I've done lately. Until next time, keep drawing, and if you liked the video and the content, please don't hesitate to like, favorite, and subscribe, and most importantly, share with your buddies and friends. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.